Doctors are to traditional medicine what deal makers are to market opportunity. Lawyers are to injustice what deal makers are to adversity. Deal makers have a wide playing field. Deal makers quell fires. Daily, they experiment, fail, try again, differently, and get it done. They tap it. How do they do it? Hear it all in the Deal Makers Theorem, presented by Lawfinity Solutions and the Memo Recommended Lawyers.
For companies that have been overlooking the essentiality of the legal function, there are winds of change. Take the case of a packaging major that made it 30 years, supplying to all the major FMCG, pharma, personal care and electronics brands, without so much as a legal floor in the building, and raising cross-border investments in the process. Unnati Patel has built legal at Parkinson's Packaging from ground up. She has surmounted challenges such as getting age-old management to agree to tectonic shifts in the way of doing things despite resistance due to traditional methods. She discusses the importance of the legal function, the importance of legal advice for small businesses and new and contentious issues like ESG compliances in this episode of the Dealmakers Theorem. So how does Unnati do it?
What is the most complex part of your job in your sector so far? It's not a new company. It's a very it has its own established cultures and systems, given it's the leader and the biggest in the space. Give us a picture like of what that entailed for you over the last 2 years.
Starting with the fact that I have actually built the legal function from scratch. And obviously this is a bit surprising even for me, like when I joined the company, given that this is not a new company, it's not a startup. It's been around since for 30 years almost. And again, it's an industry leader. It's a very large company to not have a legal function. But I think because it's been a traditionally promoter-run business from the get-go, and I think even today a large part of the business is very much, promoter-driven. This is not that uncommon, surprisingly. I think the legal function is something that tends to be overlooked, compared to all the other functions that exist in a company. And I think the general trend, at least what I've seen, is people used to have this, like no news is good news, ignorance is bliss. Don't know, don't care. As long as the company is running, business is happening, there are no surprises, there's been no real regulatory issue so far. People don't really tend to understand the importance of, the legal function and what value it adds to the overall, business, brand, etc. I'll give you a simple example, like your everyday NDAs agreements, that the company enters into. We're a B2B company, like I said, we work with the biggest brands today in the country. And these are very sophisticated, all your large FMCG companies from your HUL to Procter & Gamble, Reliance. I mean, all of these have very, very sophisticated legal teams. And I think step one is, whenever they interact with someone from the Parkinson's, sales and marketing team, they would send across an NDA, they would send across an agreement. So I think people were just blindly signing these documents earlier, not realizing that, this has to be vetted by appropriate teams and, qualified people. So I think to begin with, the risk that the company was exposing itself to was, like uncapped liabilities, indemnities being signed left, right, and center without people even understanding what an indemnity means, what they're exposing the company to.
ESG and the media attention on ESG, that buzzword, that is again like one of those factors that are changing in terms of the awareness of companies around this is not a support function, this is a very crucial function, and we have to get our act together as quickly as possible.
I think there was some recent government notifications that came out last year on plastic waste management. And, that sent, a lot of alarm bells ringing across all the packaging companies, all our competitors, etc. Does this apply? Does this not apply? Because that was a sort of game, the way the law was drafted was sort of game changing, wherein certain packaging products that we have do use one very thin layer of plastic for certain clients. Again, it's not like across the board, but then merely because of that, the way the law read, we would have to, seek registration and, comply with the plastic waste management norms. make filings, we'd have to do some recycling obligations, etc. Fairly onerous compliances that were non-existent prior to the introduction of this notification. So I think that was obviously something that just got everybody a bit worried, despite a lot of varying advice that we got from, multiple advisors. Our management and I took the decision that, we wanted to go with the spirit of the, of the law. And even though it was a gray area, whether it applied, didn't apply, I thought, being an industry leader, we wanted to sort of be proactive and set an example for all the other packaging industries and companies in the industry. And we're actually the first company to go ahead and seek registration for all our plants under these rules. Which was, obviously did not go unnoticed by the industry. And there were various articles, etc., covering that, Parkinson's has gone ahead and done this. And the reason why, again, it was so influential was that because we had done it, it kind of, set the tone where there were other companies who were, again, forced to go and seek registration because Parkinson's had done it. Because the way, if you read the rules, it's like a continuous cycle. The end brand to whom we're supplying, if they were to buy products from any other supplier, they would have to ensure that that supplier also has a registration. So that even from a business perspective, it was, I think, a wonderful decision, because it actually not just was a reputation of the company sort of applauded all over, but even from a business perspective, any chance of us losing business to a non regulated competitor goes out of the window, because that business cannot go to anybody else. It has to come to us.
Now, let's just rewind to 15 years back where it was. And now a new company in the space starting on that scale. What should its approach be versus what it used to be towards legal?
I think, say 15 years ago, times were very different. And say if there were a company to, start off doing this today, I think the prime difference between the two is, I think there's a lot more awareness today. Like, say if you had a company that was starting from scratch, and that company's approach towards legal as a function would definitely, and again, I'm not trying to generalize, but I'm just speaking from whatever I've seen, is that today people are a lot more aware about risks, and hence don't just look at legal as a cost center. They would, of course, look at it as, a very, very crucial, essential function to have for the growth of the company, and to make sure the company is not exposed to unlimited risks. And, so as a way to sort of obviously cap that, and also help the company grow in, in the correct direction. Say you may not, if you're a new startup company strapped for funds, it may not be possible to have, say, like a full-blown legal team, especially in the early days of a company. So I want to be practical here and not say that every company needs to invest lots of money and have competent, qualified, large legal teams. That's not what I'm saying. My point is, even if it's not to have a full-blown dedicated team, just the approach of going and seeking proper advice, legal advice, approaching a lawyer or a law firm, just to make sure that they're on the right track. Should they be doing something different? I think I'm talking about the approach to legal in general. So, like, say a few years ago, say 15 years ago in the example, I don't think even that was done. Leave aside having a dedicated legal team. I think from what I've seen is that business was just had all eyes focused on numbers and growing revenue, and legal didn't feature anywhere in that. So that's what's changed. I think that, in my opinion, is the big difference today. You have new companies, even if they don't have the funds, like I said, to have a full-blown team, they will reach out to someone just to make sure that things are okay, they're on the right track. So that is, of course, commendable. And I'm glad that we've gotten to this point. And I think the only way to go from here is upwards, is for more and more awareness to happen, and for more and more people to be unafraid of seeking proper advice when the need arises.